Morning, everybody. So, let's begin this morning with this beautiful prayer demand by Paramahansa Yogananda ji from his book Whispers from Eternity. These are over 400 beautiful prayers. And Yogananda ji said these were given to me by God. So, this one is called Demand to be Fed with the Cosmic Rays. I entered my temple of silence. Seated with a straight spine, I switched off the dazzling, diverting light of energy, animating my sight, hearing, smell, taste, and touch. I commanded my breath to cease its cleansing work in the body and make no noise. I ordered my heart to suspend its dictatorship over my myriad body cells, forcing them to eat the blood it sends them. I sat still and listened. Then, Mother, I heard the soft approach of thy footsteps. Thou didst come, bearing an overflowing chalice of life-sustaining spiritual rays. Sustain me evermore, O Divine Mother, with thy light, rays of life-giving light. The heart cells, brains, and thoughts of this body, thy body, not mine, will waste no longer with decay. Lo, they are now immortal with thy everlasting life. And so it is, friends, that yes, this morning's topic is Kriya Yoga, the solution for all problems. And you hear something so poetic as this prayer demand was. And by the way, Yogananda ji said these were not only whispers from eternity, these were answered prayer demands. He prayed to God and he received a response. That is an experience over there. I'm sure most people over here have read the autobiography of a yogi. You read a book like that. You listen to a chant like we sang, what is this life, the consciousness, power, where is this coming from? It's coming from God. And frankly, you go out of this room into the busy marketplace, you go back to work, and like a devotee once told me, he said, your satsangs are very nice, but honestly, I have forgotten them before I reach home. I don't remember what you said. It's so hard. The world takes over. And frankly, it is true. But that's where the will is required. Paramahansa Yogananda ji said, greater the will, greater is the flow of energy. Greater the flow of energy, greater is the magnetism. We're going to talk about Kriya Yoga. It's a pranayam. It's controlling the energy by controlling the will. And how do you control the will? Yes, by doing energization exercises. We taught that technique, especially to strengthen the will. But the willingness and the will to be in God, to think of Him, to talk to Him, even one experience, to hold on to that and magnetize it, to give it more energy, to build its magnetism to the point. Yogananda said, your heart should be so full with the thought of God. And he said, this is what ultimately happens. He says, the magnetism of your heart's devotion, love for God, traps God, captures him in that nest, and he cannot escape. He's drawn to each soul by that pull in our own hearts. So on one level, the switch is with us, the heart is ours, and the more we exercise it, the more we depend on him, the more we see our life's problems get solved. But like I was saying, like that devotee said, I often see a mismatch. Kriya Yoga is okay, meditation is fine, chanting is wonderful, but how do I work with my boss? How do I make more income? How do I cause a healing in my life? How do I deal, as we said, with every problem in my life? Is that even practical? Well, yes. Let's go through this step by step. Jyotish ji, Naya Swami Jyotish, she is the Dharmacharya of Ananda Sangha worldwide. Swami Kriyananda ji was a direct disciple of Paramahansa Yogananda, and he appointed Jyotishji as his successor. And 2 years ago in Pune, Jyotishji said a very beautiful talk. By the way, I come from Pune, and the talk was there, and I remember this one line from it very clearly. he said problems, the same problem is different for two different people. It may actually not be a problem for somebody at all. And it may be the biggest test we are facing in our life. And he says, let's come to a principle then. How does it work? He said, if your energy field is small, if your energy is low, getting out of bed is a problem. Just like putting the foot in front of the other seems like, oh my God, how am I going to go through this? Problems become or look big, they don't become big. Your energy field has become small, and suddenly the problem is you're looking up to it, it's looking down. On the other hand, when we were small, I remember climbing down these steps would have been a challenge for all of us. Now we don't even think about it. As your body size increases, the problem, the challenge, situation is the same, but your ability to handle it has increased. Well, let's apply it now to the energy body, where Kriya works. Yogananda said it primarily works on the astral body. Notice you are saying if your energy field is more by pranayam, by your willpower, by your willingness. Ramakrishna Paramahansa, the great avatar of modern times, he said your situation should be like a thief who knows where the gold is in the house and the owner is away. But you can't barely wait for sunset. You know it's there. You know how to get in there. So every morning, every night, Yogananda would tell his devotees, whenever you have some time, do one or two kriyas. And he says that way you will increase that ability to overcome those problems. So keep the simple principle in mind. Energization exercises, your posture. The other thing is, how do we overcome a problem? Let's say when I was a doctor as a resident, I remember I used to see Dhyanaji, Haridas, and Romaji in Gurgaon. That's where I was practicing. And one time I was in the crowd, and if somebody is new, you relate to me. Dhyanaji, I was new, and Dhyanaji's eyes, you don't miss, she doesn't miss a new person or radar. She looked at me and she said, and if somebody is new over here, and she said, I didn't know who's new, who's old. I knew I'm new. He said, you may want to take the how to meditate class we have this weekend. And because you were looking at me through and through, I didn't take it. Because I came up to her, I said, man, I really want to take the class, but I'm a first year resident and they always give us the weekend shifts. I said, I'm Saturday, Sunday, I'm in hospital. So I said, but I promise, whenever I do take it, I will go all the way. And that was 2006 when she had looked at me and her, by God's grace, her blessings, I'm here, I've taken these classes. And I can tell you in my brief experience, they help you a lot. Now, the other thing, if you study the teachings of Paramahansa Yogananda Ji, Swami Kriyananda said, you look at the lives of saints and they're not easy. You're not sliding into heaven. You're climbing, you're ascending, you're lifting the energy, you're inhaling. So you're always lifting that energy. And yeah, this is what I was saying, that so many times at the night shift, you've done, I was telling Dhanaji the other day, once a friend of mine, he said, you're foolish, you keep saying yes to everything. And I had just said yes to a senior. He said, can you do the night shift for me? I said, yes, I'll do it. And my friend said, no, don't do that. You keep saying yes to everything. I said, you don't understand. I am testing the limits of my willingness. I said, this is for me. I said, in return, it's helping him. He's feeling grateful. We have a nice friendship. And I said, 54 hours. I'm not suggesting this to anybody, but I was able to happily go through work enthusiastically, lovingly for my patients. Now, people would say, well, they were benefited. Yes, but I'm not saying there was selfishness over there, but Swami Krishnananda said, how would you ever know what you're made up of if you don't put yourself to the test? So I remember sometimes at 9 a.m., after a long shift, you're finally waiting for the reliever. A hospital is never without a doctor. So the reliever comes, you give a handover, you go to bed. So I was waiting for my friend to come and he calls me, and so many times, I don't know why they call in the last 10 minutes. They're like, Aditya, I said, yes. He said, I really cannot come for the next 6 hours and something has happened. Can you please continue? I was like, yeah, I will. And then this is the first thing I would do, and I'm sure all of us can relate to this. I would do this. Okay, let's get to work. That inhalation is also called inspiration because in that single breath, it's not just the amount of oxygen that comes. Kriya Yoga will bring you a lot of oxygen. Yoga, and that you said, it decarbonizes the blood, it heals the body on the physical level. Many beautiful benefits of meditation and especially of Kriya Yoga will come, many of them. But in that single breath, it's not the oxygen, it's the mindset that changes. It is the switch of will and willingness that is activated. And when you do that, Yogananda said, you've aligned yourself, you've overcome what he called the fear of hard work, the fear of the spiritual path. Instead, that becomes the joy. So a problem is not a problem. It rather becomes, wow, isn't this wonderful? Like a little child, oh, now I can sit, now I can crawl, now I can walk, stand and walk and run. And you know where it goes. Yogananda said, what is the physical body? He said, it's compacted life force. And there comes a time you're not happy in that body and you want to break out of it. You want to expand your consciousness beyond it. So how does Kriya Yoga help? First of all, Swami Kriyanandaji said, the ego that you and I find ourselves in, we define ourselves. He says, is a delusion. It has been given to us. It's like this little t-shirt I got when I was in kindergarten. My father one day came, his friend had brought me 3 t-shirts and they all said happy on them and different colors. And I loved them. They were beautiful at that time. They were imported shirts and my friends liked it. They were elastic and all that. And I wore them for a year, couple years, till I was still in fourth grade and I was wearing them. And my mom would remind me, she said, why don't you give these away? Let's give them to somebody. And I said, no, I like them. And she said, but they're very tight for you now. I said, no, but I like them. And one day I went to play, and when you play, your muscles, your blood flow, they bulge. Whatever, even as a kid. So I came home and I couldn't get that shirt out by myself. And I went to my mom. I stood like this. And I said, can you please pull this shirt out? And she said, now, but first tell me, are you going to give them away now or not? I said, I will. That shirt, which was the source of my happiness, which said happy on it, had become a constriction now. And the ego, which in the beginning is necessary, because Master says it's not just the human ego. He said the soul goes through mineral, plant, animal, and finally human incarnations. So the stone does not say, I am a stone. So the soul has to evolve in its identification, but it comes to the point where Priyanandaji said the ego becomes the source of your greatest suffering, and you must and do everything possible to study it, introspect, and renounce it. God himself cannot do it. It's Bhishma's story. Nobody could kill him. He had to choose to offer himself. And we need not wait for those hundreds of arrows, because those arrows are to me. But if there's no me, then who cares? Like Swamiji said in a dentist chair, he was going through a procedure. And somebody said, you never take a painkiller, even for root canals. How do you deal with this? He said, I just expand my consciousness beyond the chair, beyond the city, into the countryside. And he said, from there, I know something is happening on a dentist chair, but it is not of major consequence to me. So the idea, expand your consciousness, think of other people. Now, how does Kriya Yoga do this? I want to share 2-3 simple steps in which this happens. First of all, in the autobiography of a yogi, Paramahansa Yogananda, in the chapter 26, The Science of Kriya Yoga, he says, the average human body is like a light bulb that carries 50 watts of energy. And he said, by comparison, an advanced Kriya yogi can rouse over 1 billion watts. Look at that spectrum. It's not 10 times, it's not 1,000 times, it's more than 1,000,000 times. He says, by your practice, by that pranayama, by God's grace, Guru's guidance, gradual purification of our attitudes, our nerves, we can channel a lot of energy. Let's go back to that first statement. The problem is still the same, whether it's a person, whether it's a situation, whether it's an exam, but your ability to handle it. Now you have so much energy. so much magnetism, you start drawing the right people. You start your prayers, like Yogananda ji is saying, start getting answered. You understand that through the ego you were hitting a roadblock, but now that you've offered the ego and the likes and dislikes that cling to it, I will do this, I will not do that. Well, first we draw a fence around our consciousness and then we cry, why am I not happy? Why are these problems bothering me? Well, you define them that way, Master said. So it requires an introspection of our attitudes because Kriya works through the attitudes, through the grace of Guru. But it is a very comprehensive, simple path where we say, Mother, I want to offer my consciousness. I want to offer my limitations. Like Krishna says, I will make you complete if you can bring these changes in your life. The other thing Kriya does is it increases our consciousness. Now, what is that? It is not too far from your experience. Few hours ago, all of us were in subconscious state. We are sleeping. If somebody called out your name, you perhaps wouldn't even remember because your awareness was low. Right now, I hope everybody's at least conscious. What does that mean? If I ask you something, you give a relatable answer. I'm so and so, I live here, I have a question. Okay. Yogananda said most people go from subconscious state to the conscious. After a few hours there, they go back to sleep. He says, without realizing that each of us has equal access to a third state called super consciousness, absolute consciousness ultimately. And Yogananda ji said, from consciousness come our thoughts, our energy, and matter reality. When you're in a wonderful state of mind, you say, I'm having an idea. Suddenly it became clear to me what we should do with this piece of land. We'll make a building over here, and I can see it's going to be like this, this, this. Theory of relativity, pieces of music, a scripture coming to a saint, inspiration of any kind. It comes through those three filters. I think, I have the energy, and I'm going to do it. Now imagine if there's no ego and likes and dislikes there. What are you channeling? Divine energy, divine will. God is the doer. You are only an instrument. And that is the state of consciousness in which all the masters live. Ananda ji said, Master didn't really have to perform miracles. Miracles were happening as a matter of fact wherever he went because he lived in super consciousness. And remember, you and I can live. Kriya Yoga is the highest technique of Raj Yoga to lift our awareness. Finally, I'll close with this beautiful quote of Paramhans Yogananda ji. And by the way, if anybody is new, we cannot reveal the technique of Kriya Yoga publicly, but we have initiation for it. We have classes that train you in that, and we have many teachers and others available in Ananda, Bangalore, who can help you with that. Now, this is from chapter 14 of Autobiography of a Yogi. Paramhans Yogananda ji is having this conversation with his guru, Swami Shri Yukteswar. He says, I understand now, sir, why saints call the Lord unfathomable. Even everlasting light could not suffice to appraise him. That is true, Sri Krishna says, but he's also near and dear. After the mind has been cleared by Kriya Yoga of sensory obstacles, meditation furnishes a twofold proof of God. Ever new joy is evidence of his existence, convincing to our very atoms. And here's the important thing I wanted to share relating to our topic. Also, in meditation, one finds his instinct guidance, and his is with a capital H, God. In meditation, one finds his instant guidance, his adequate response to every difficulty. And then Yogananda ji adds his testimony. He says, that is true, Master. I have realized whenever I have been in bliss, in joy, which is the direct gift of Kriya Yoga, he said, whenever I have been in bliss, Master, I have found that to be true. Because I found not only God's guidance, he writes, but God's guidance in the details. Now, isn't that enough to solve all our problems? Our mind, our energy. It's like Ananda said, there are two kingdoms in our own consciousness. One wants to go up, the other sort of resists it. And he said, if you can only align all of them in one direction, he said, your progress will be very rapid and inevitable. God bless you. I invite Dhanaji now to share.
Good morning again, friends. It's really a joy to share with you. I'll start with a couple of quotes on Kriya Yoga. If you haven't read this wonderful book, can you hold it up? Autobiography of a Yogi. I would highly recommend that you read it and read the chapter on Kriya Yoga. This is from that chapter. Kriya, controlling the mind directly from the life force, is the easiest, most effective, and most scientific avenue of approach to the infinite. In contrast to the slow, uncertain bullock cart, the illogical path to God, Kriya may justly be called the airplane route. And the Kriya Yoga, which I'm giving to the world through you in this 19th century, Babaji told Lahiri Mahashaya, is a revival of the same science which Krishna gave millenniums ago to Arjuna, and which was later known to Patanjali, Christ, St. John, St. Paul, and other disciples. And finally, the cries, Babaji saying, the cries of many bewildered worldly men and women have not fallen unheard on the ears of the great ones. You, Lahiri Mahashaya, have been chosen to bring spiritual solace through Kriya Yoga to numerous earnest seekers. The millions who are encumbered by family ties and heavy worldly duties will take new heart from you, a householder like themselves. You must guide them to see that the highest yogic attainments are not barred to the family man. And finally, Swami Kriyanandaji says, in the practice of Kriya, you can get out of so many problems, psychological, physical, spiritual. And if you will practice with energy and devotion, you will find that there is no cloud that cannot be lifted in time. I've taught the practice of Kriya in many countries. I taught in, of course, here in India. I've been here 20 years. I've been practicing Kriya Yoga for 4.5 decades. I taught Kriya Yoga in Africa, in a hut with no running water, and that whole situation with people living in a village. I taught Kriya Yoga in Australia. I taught Kriya Yoga throughout Europe. I've taught Kriya Yoga in America. And now I'm here in India. What do I find? Everyone is seeking the same. Like Aditya is saying, how can I come out of pain? How can I come out of sorrow? How can I come out of difficulties? How can I come out of my problems? I remember some of the young people in Nigeria, also in South Africa, I should say, right after apartheid, we taught Kriya Yoga. But back in that village, I remember some of the young boys, they didn't speak a whole lot of English, but they understood enough to get the techniques. I remember one of them, I was saying, well, do you like what we're doing? We were energizing like we did earlier. We were meditating. We were doing some yoga. I said, well, do you like it? And he looked at me and just says, ma'am, we like this. And we like it. Our soul likes it. Our whole body likes it. Our brain likes it. Our energy likes it. It's because it's who and what we really are. And this is such a wonderful reading that Babaji decreed. God decreed it's time to give Kriya Yoga again to people who have problems, to people who are suffering, to people who have families. He's taken it out of the caves, out of the Himalayan caves, out of the mountains to cities. I remember someone asked me once, they said, well, ma'am, you're happy all the time. You just stay home and chant Om all day. Hello. You have no idea what my life is like. And for each one of us, we live in Delhi, we live in Bangalore, we live in Pune, we live in Mumbai, we live in, and Master, think about Paramahansa Yoganandaji, we call him Master, as we said earlier. He didn't live in a cave, he didn't live in the Himalayas. He went to America. So materialistic. He lived in New York. He lived in Boston. He lived in Los Angeles. Did he have problems? Definitely. He started his work in California, in Los Angeles. He had a Hollywood church. Think about that, like a Bollywood, a church in Bollywood. Master had a church in Hollywood. He taught thousands and thousands of people how to get out of their problems. He didn't say, oh, just sit in your meditation room, everything will be fine. He said, no, I'm going to give you techniques and practices for daily life, kriyas for daily life. And look at the life of Swami Kriyanandaji, our founder and director. He wrote 150 books, all coming through him. He was very practical, down to earth. He wrote 400 pieces of music. He traveled all around the world teaching thousands of people. He started centers. He started communities where Roma Ji and Haridas Ji lived. He started Ananda, a foundation, a movement, an organization. Did that have difficulties? Definitely. The centers have difficulties? Definitely. But we put Kriya Yoga in action. And I saw over the decades I've been on this path, I saw some very beautiful instances how Kriya Yoga helps your life. I saw a woman who the doctor said she would die in a year. She went to Swamiji and said, this is what the doctor said. He said, don't go into the consciousness of the disease. Do Kriya Yoga. Energize your body. Chant. Teach. Help people. Do affirmations. She lived 10 more years from Kriya Yoga. Wow. I saw people who had cancer and it went away from Kriya Yoga and the grace of God and gurus. I saw people, if they did pass away, they passed away in grace. They saw the master at the end of their life because of Kriya Yoga. Isn't that beautiful? And I saw people during COVID. I saw one man who lost his father and his son in the same month with COVID. And he found the protection and the blessings and the grace of the gurus. Now he's in Ananda Charya. Because of Kriya Yoga. I saw people who had broken relationships, but they were able to make it. They were able to get through until they felt peace and joy again. I saw people who lost their job. They were able to find another job. I saw people who had addictions. Even here in India, I saw people smoke, drink. They were able to come out of it. They're doing Kriya Yoga. Swami Kriyanandaji told us of a man who was an alcoholic. It wasn't just that he drank, he was an alcoholic. And Master said, it's okay, you just do Kriya Yoga. And the man would have a bottle of whiskey in one hand and the japa mala, the Kriya mala in the other. He would do Kriya and drink. He'd do a few more Kriyas and then he would drink. And Master just keep doing Kriya Yoga. He did some more and he would drink. And that went on not for very long, Swamiji said. And one day the man put the bottle. He said, I don't need that anymore. It's fulfilling everything I need. This is what we have to remember. What does Kriya Yoga do? It, Master, it's beautiful. It cuts the sense telephones. They're always, I want this, I gotta do this, I gotta have this, I gotta taste this, I gotta touch this. The Master said with Kriya, you just cut the wires. You withdraw your energy into the deepest part of your being, where the soul resides, where the prana resides. You withdraw your energy, you draw it up to the seat of enlightenment, of joy, of wisdom, of contact with God. And then the things don't bother you. Master, he would go to the movies sometimes, not a lot, but he would go with the disciples and he'd sit and his eyes would be closed. And then, Master, are you watching them? Yes, I'm watching the big movie. What movie are you watching? Are you watching that movie? You don't have to watch that movie. You do Kriya Yoga, you start watching, see the lights, you start hearing the deep sounds of the chakras, you start feeling uplifted and bliss, you start feeling peace, you start feeling this is what I really am. I love the beautiful story of Ramakrishna where he was on his last days and he was lying on his cot and one disciple went and he said, Master, how are you doing? Terrible. It's all good, terrible. And the disciple went back, he told everybody, that's what's doing terrible. So sometime he goes back, Master, how are you feeling now? You can't believe how terrible. He goes back. After a few times, the disciple said, he's feeling terrible, but it doesn't seem like he's feeling terrible. And Ramakrishna says, that fellow's found me out. Meaning that he was so deep inside himself. It looked terrible, but he wasn't really feeling terrible because he had something inside of himself. And this is what we have to realize, that the joy is inside. And so what does Kriya Yoga do specifically? And I'll close with this. One, it gives you so much more energy. You have that much energy and power, the problems run away from you. You're magnetic. You're positive. You're energetic. There's energy, prana flowing through you. Problems go, no, I'm going to go to somebody else. Because there's so much energy there. Master would run out onto the platform, give his talks. He would say, do it this with this flesh. If you could just unleash the power and 1 gram of your flesh, you'd be able to light the whole city like Chicago, he said, a whole week, but you're so lazy. So, sit on the couch, watch TV. But if you just do the exercises, do some yoga, do pranayama, help yourself. So first of all, and there was a boy who he lost his thumb, his finger. He was a boy who was at the ashram there. Master said, you lost that because you had a dark cloud around you. You don't want a dark cloud. Is it? You do Kriya, you have light around you. The whole spine is shining, your eyes are shining, your energy. You do it and you don't have a dark cloud. And Master said it's a self-created darkness. You don't have to have that. So Kriya brings a light, brings energy. And secondly, it brings your consciousness to a high level. You see the high level, that's the answer, that's the solution, that's what I'm supposed to do. That's my guidance, that's my direction. Now I know, call that person, go over here. Because you're uplifted in the superconscious level. Instead of, this is the solution level. Conscious level sees only problems. That's a problem, he's a problem, she's a problem. You gotta get up higher. Get on top of the mountain, look down and say, oh, there's no more problem. Finally, the last thing. Kriya changes you completely. And everything you don't need begins to fall away. Anger, moods, fears, worries, negativity, they just start going away by doing the practice. There was a man who came to Master. He was a Hollywood star, singer, very debonair and all. So he came to Yogananda. Master had many actors, musicians, singers. So the man came and he says, I've been to many places where they tell me what I can't do. Many churches, they say, you can't do, you can't do, you can't do. He says, I want to know, what can I do? Yogananda says, come on in. And he says, I see you smoke a lot. He says, yes, for my job, I have to. And he says, you can continue. And the man's happy. He said, and you drink a lot, don't you? Yeah. He said, I love it. I have to because, my status. And he says, You can continue. The man's even happier. And he says, oh, you like socializing a lot with the ladies. I said, oh, yes. Master says, you may continue. The man's so happy. He's walking out the room. Yogananda says, but wait, if you do what I tell you to do from this path, you won't want to do those things anymore. And I met that man. He was very soft, very devotional. And finally, once Jayaji and I were giving a class in Hyderabad, like this, with many people, more people there, someone asked us, well, what are your powers? You talk about this yoga, but what's your powers? I looked at Jayaji. I don't have any powers. He said, well, I don't think I have any powers. Everybody, he doesn't have no powers. Why is he really? So he said, but wait, I might have one power, all ears. Wow, there you could have heard a pin drop right now. He said, I have the power to be happy at will. How many people do you know? You probably can't name one person to be happy at will. That class was packed the next day. Learn Kriya Yoga. Learn. You have it, do it. Master said, you have the key in your hand. Do it until you can be happy at will. Now I can say I have one power too. And I'm happy about that. God bless you.